Qualified immunity denied for former Sergeant Bryan Fahey, otherwise known as COP-TUAH. I patented an awesome idea that is sure to make me rich beyond my wildest imagination, and an update to the case of Mahendra Patel, the Georgia man falsely accused of attempting to kidnap a child from an Ackworth, Georgia Walmart. All on this week's episode of The Rebuttal. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Southern Draw Law. My name is James White, criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor, former police officer, and this is The Rebuttal. This is a place where I talk about updates that are, not so major or not so involved that we have to do an entire video on it, but just to give you slices here and there, let you know what's going on with stuff. This one's going to be a little bit different than normal, but you'll understand in a minute. Now, I know I talked about COP-TUAH first, but I got to take these things out of order, and I apologize to you for that, but I just have to tell you about this idea that I'm finna patent up front. You think you know, but you have no idea. You think you're seeing me, but you're actually not. It's kind of like a hologram, but I'm from the South, so it's not a hologram, it's a hologram. Oh man, I don't need anybody to laugh at my jokes. I entertain myself. Shout out to Alex Eskew, who I stole that joke from. I'm just kidding. I ain't got no patent. I just pre-recorded this video because I'm actually on vacation this week. I'm taking my ungrateful family on an all-expenses-paid trip to the land of sin and debauchery. And no, I'm not talking about Phoenix, Arizona. I'm talking about Las Vegas. My son just turned 26. My daughter's 24. They've never been, and we wanted to take them. So that's where we are as you're watching this video right now. And I tell you that because I did pre-record some videos before I left, and it would mean the world to me if you guys would watch them. And they are both interviews, and it's a little bit different this week than it would be in normal weeks because I wanted to get these interviews. It just happened that I got them done. And so I'm just going to play these interview videos this week instead of doing what I normally do. With that, let's head out to the first item on our docket that's actually on our docket, and that is that qualified immunity was denied for former Sergeant Bryan Fahey of the Connecticut State Police, otherwise known as COP-TUAH. It is awesome that qualified immunity was denied, and I thought it was kind of interesting that the state AG did not choose to make any sort of defense argument as it relates to the accusation that the Fourth Amendment was violated. That was pretty unique. But one of the things that Sean Paul did when he went through his order was he sort of glossed over some stuff that I think could use some further clarification. What generally happens when a lawsuit is filed is the person who files a lawsuit is the plaintiff. They'll serve it on the defendant, and then the defendant has so many days under the rules of civil procedure to respond to that lawsuit. And if you don't make your defense known for each and every allegation in a lawsuit, then your ability to defend yourself against that in most circumstances is waived. One of the things that happens very early on in a lawsuit is something called a 12b6 motion. And Sean Paul glossed over it probably because he's not a lawyer and he doesn't really know what a 12b6 motion is. But a 12b6 motion is failure to make a claim upon which relief can be granted. And generally you see that with all sorts of defenses, but specifically in cases that we talk about, it's going to be for qualified immunity. It's not that you didn't make a claim, it's that you didn't make a claim for which relief could be granted. And the reason that relief might not be able to be granted is because they're going to say, well, okay, fine, we did this, but these officers have qualified immunity. And because they have the shield of qualified immunity, even though you might have stated a claim, you've stated a claim for which relief can't be granted because you can't be granted relief under these circumstances because these officers cannot be held liable to you due to the doctrine of qualified immunity. And so, not to take anything away from Sean Paul, I'm glad he did the update, I'm glad he walked through the order, but it does merit some explanation of what it actually means to get a 12b6 motion. Another way that people will use a 12b6 motion is, and this is true for human beings, is when we tell a story, especially a story that centers around us being a victim, we tend to tell that story in a light that is most favorable to us. And that's why it says that the court has to look at this complaint and take it as if it's true at this stage. And what it really means is that just imagine like a series of dominoes, right? You can't knock over the second domino until the first domino falls and hits it. And so the reason that we're doing it at this stage, where it's the 12B6 stage. It's the stage where the person answers the lawsuit and tries to assert certain defenses, is because that's the first domino. Until the domino falls, the rest of the dominoes don't fall. And so if qualified immunity is going to hold this first domino up, the rest of these dominoes don't get to fall, and we don't get to proceed with the lawsuit. And what they're asking you to do actually is dismiss the lawsuit altogether, because the state's going to say they have sovereign immunity, right? And the officer's going to claim qualified immunity. And so what they're saying is that we can't proceed with this lawsuit because this domino here cannot fall. That's 12B6. You've failed to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. You've failed to tell us that something happened to you that allows this domino to fall, because this domino stands with the strength of the state sovereign immunity at the back and the officer's qualified immunity at the front. Therefore, this domino cannot fall, and it cannot knock over the other dominoes. That's what a 12B6 motion is, okay? Another thing that happens is that when people tell a story, especially a story that involves them being the central figure or the victim, we tend to frame that in a way that presents our side of it persuasively and in a way that is most favorable to us, right? When I tell a story about me and I want you to believe that I've been wronged, I'm going to frame it in a way that makes you think that I'm the victim. Well, that's why the court said in its order, we have no choice but to assume that these allegations are true at this stage to determine whether this domino can fall. Because if you've told the story in the way that is most favorable to your case, and that still will not be a story compelling enough to make this domino fall, the lawsuit gets dismissed and we don't go any further. And that's the reason that we always get stuck on this qualified immunity thing. And that's what I wanted to take an opportunity to explain to you guys. I didn't feel like it was something that would warrant a 12 or 15-minute video, but I thought it was something that merited a little bit more of an explanation. So that's why I did that. Now, on to what really matters, which is what Sean Paul's going to do with Bryan Fahey's house when he gets it from the auction block. I actually think that their lack of defense for the Fourth Amendment argument is a signal to me that they're actually going to cut Bryan Fahey loose as the fall guy. I'm very interested to see how this progresses. I think they're going to cut him loose. I really do. Especially now that they're getting heat from this new incident that just happened that resulted in Sean Paul getting arrested and Fahey getting charged. I actually think that they're showing their hand a little bit, and that the state might depart from their normal routine of indemnifying the officers, and they might actually hang him out to dry for this and the previous encounter and make him pay this judgment or make him be on the hook for it. And we know this is going to be a massive lawsuit, especially out of this latest incident. So Fahey got a pension, but that big, expensive house could very well be on the auction block. And so that's why we got to talk about what really matters, because I'm freaking here for whatever plan Sean Paul has for that. Hell, I may get with him and see if he's willing to turn this into like a freaking rival to Farm Aid. We could convert the front porch of Fahey's house into a big stage, and we could turn that big ass front yard into general admission seating, and we could have people seated on the lawn like, 4th of July fireworks style, all the way back a quarter of a mile, all the way back to the road. Sean Paul could use some of this money that he gets to buy billboard trucks and broadcast the live music fest fundraiser into the cul-de-sacs of every neighborhood in Corrupticate. My God, what a party. I hope he does it. I swear to God, I hope he does it. And you guys know what else? Pay attention, Sean Paul. You could buy that property and turn it into a museum that you could use most of the time and charge admission or whatever. And you could title that in a real estate LLC investment company, and you write that bitch off and use it to offset the tax burden from every single penny that you make on this channel over the next 5 years. Show that government what happens when you mess around with the titans of LawTube. I'm here for it, baby. Moving on, the next item on the docket is just to tell you what the lineup is for the week. On Thursday, I am going to be airing my interview with Otto the Watchdog. I teased this in a rebuttal episode a couple weeks back. Otto was freaking awesome to interview. He came on, we talked about his life, the hardships he's had to endure in order to do what he does, and what his future mission looks like. I'm telling you guys, Otto is a really, really special guy, and his work and the way that he delivers is like no one else in this space. I really hope you guys get some enjoyment out of that interview. It is a long one. It's about a 90-minute interview. And I thought about releasing it in 2 parts, but I really hate it when I get excited to watch something and then I have to wait for like a part 2. I generally lose interest and I just don't finish it. So please check that out, even if you have to pause it and come back to it. I think you'll find it really interesting. And a lot of people have asked me in the comments when I was talking about doing interviews with people to talk to Otto. The final item on our docket is the case of Mahendra Patel. The last video that I did on Mr. Patel's case did not get nearly the amount of views that it deserved or that I wanted it to get. But guys, Mahendra Patel's case is really important. And it is an egregious case of government overreach, prosecutorial misconduct, malicious prosecution, and it really all comes down to a desperately insecure woman who I'm completely comfortable at this point calling her a Munchausen's mommy, using lies and public sensitivity to child trafficking to be willing to ruin a person's life just to get some attention. And it happened to somebody who might actually be the most gentle person and undeserving of this treatment than you guys will ever meet. I really want you guys to tune into this interview. It's about an hour long. Please watch Mr. Patel's story. It's so important. He did not deserve the way that he was treated, and he is going to roll heads in Georgia with the help of this rock star attorney, Ashley Merchant. All right, a bit of a short one. I know I've crammed a lot of announcements into this, but I really just wanted you guys to know what was going on, what to expect, give you an explanation as to why things might be a little interview heavy this week, a little bit different than what I normally do. But assuming the planes start and stop where they're supposed to, I'll be back next week with your regularly scheduled programming. Thanks for everything you do to support me, and I will go ahead and sign off. Again, QR code on the screen. You can sign up for all the socials. Join on a page here on Substack if you want, but only if you want to support monetarily. I don't charge anything for anything I put on these platforms. If you don't want to join other platforms, but you do want to support monetarily, I'll leave my Venmo and PayPal links both here on the screen as well as in the description. Please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment on the videos. Check out some of the other videos on the channel. Leave a comment on there as well. Until I see you again, take care. Always film your interactions with the police and keep your evidence to yourself.